We are officially 2 months away from tax day. That's right. Have you filed yet? Maybe you haven't even started thinking about your taxes. Well, Ryan Dodson of Stanaland, Dodson and Associates CPAs is with us, as well as Laura Hernandez from Liberty Tax. They're both here to answer your tax questions as you start this process, or maybe you're in the middle of it. They are also taking your tax questions right on the spot. So you can text them 336-379-5775, and you are able to get your question answered a whole lot faster than what the IRS would probably answer it. Yes?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. All right. So let's talk about just the basics. So Laura, tax day is April 15th.
April 15th.
And so what happens with that? Because a lot of people are like, okay, I have till the 15th, unless of course I file an extension. But what are the kind of like the details about that?
Well, of course, you have April 15th as the tax deadline. That doesn't give you time to actually pay if you owe any income to the IRS. But other than that, there's a deadline. Use it and file on time.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So, Ryan, let's talk about this. What is the best way to file? Because there's a lot of people who, like to do it as they've always done it, which is printing out those papers or getting it and then filling all that stuff out by hand.
Well, certainly the best way to file is to electronically file your tax return. And there's many different ways to get that done. The paper filing, look, you're depending upon humans to make sure that everything is entered in correctly. And you just don't know. That's why. And for calculations, the biggest error that ever occurs is hand calculations. And that's why it's great to use a computer and to e-file your taxes.
E-file those taxes. That is the quickest way to get your refund. And let's talk about refunds. Everybody always wants to know, Laura, how long is it going to take to get my refund?
Well, from the IRS, typically you have about 21-day time frame. It can take a little longer if the IRS catches on to something, but normally you should get a refund within that time frame.
Yeah, North Carolina Department of Revenue, not that quick though. 21 days, not usually.
Not at all.
Okay. All right. So a lot of times people are like, it's going to take longer, and it does take longer. They have different, processes and things of that nature. And that happens, Ryan, they have to wait until the federal is filed before they can actually start looking at your state-wise.
That is absolutely correct, Tanya. So the North Carolina is considered what we call a piggyback state. And what that means is that once the tax return is received by the IRS takes it, starts processing it. If they decide, hey, look, we want to acknowledge receipt of this tax return and start processing it, that is great. They'll start doing that. And once they acknowledge it, they'll then send it over to the state, where the state will start their process as well. So that's why typically the state always runs behind the federal.
Okay. All right. So some of the common questions that people have, like, what is the difference between a W-2 and a 1099, Laura?
Well, a W-2, you typically get that from an employer. A 1099, you're usually an independent contractor or self-employed. Usually that's the most common term.
Okay, but you need both of them if you have both of them. Like if you're waiting for a 1099 or a W-2 or something like that, should you be filing your taxes or no?
Well, you have to file your taxes if you're drawing some sort of income. If you get the W-2, of course, you have to report that. If you get a 1099, if you're keeping record of that income, as long as you have a record of, you can talk to your tax preparer and see how you can file that.
Gotcha. Okay. Hey, Ryan, this also is another common question. Is there an age limit on claiming a child as a dependent?
So it depends, which is going to be a lot of answers from the IRS. So typically, if it is your child, you can claim them as a dependent on your tax return all the way up until they are 18 years old. And then once they turn 18, from the time they are 19 until 24, you can claim them as a dependent on your tax return if they are a full-time student in college or some type of post-secondary school. And full-time for the IRS is considered full-time school and at least part of 5 months out of a year.
Okay, gotcha. So that is the stipulation there. All right, Laura, some people would ask, hey, in fact, I got this on my messenger the other day. I'm 67, my husband's 69, we're retired. At what age do we stop paying taxes?
Well, all you're drawing is Social Security, maybe, but it would be best to contact a tax preparer. Other than that, if you're drawing some sort of income, then you're still filing.
Gotcha. So it is not age-based, it is income-based.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's talk about the child tax credit and the refunds and things of that nature. Ryan, what's going on this year?
So if anybody has child tax credit on their tax returns or additional child tax credit on their tax returns, there was a law that was passed by Congress that basically prevents the IRS from processing any of those tax returns until today, February the 15th. So today is the first day the IRS can start processing any tax return with any additional child tax credit. And so what that means is that now they're going to start processing this tax return. So now is what we tell our clients is that now is when that 21-day period starts.
Okay, and so if you filed early and you did the earned income tax credit or the additional child tax credit and you're waiting for your refund, this is why you're waiting.
That is absolutely correct.
And there's like no way to speed this up. You're probably not going to see it in your bank account until probably the end of February.
At the earliest.
At the earliest, and that's what they want you to know for sure. Okay, a lot of people want to also know about the whole Energy Star and if they did things to their house that could possibly get them a tax credit. Laura, things have changed this year, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
So the big residential energy credit that was passed and so forth. So it has changed in terms of you can get up to a $1,200 credit. If you put a heat pump in, you can get it up to another $1,200 for windows. However, it is capped at $2,000 per year. So if you did a heat pump and you did windows, something like that, then you're not going to get $1,200 each. You'll get up to a cap of $2,000. But it is a great new credit for folks that did anything around their house. To find out if you qualify, go to EnergyStar.com. And it will tell you pretty quickly, if you put in what you purchased, it will tell you if it's eligible for the credit.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. We are taking more of your questions all about taxes when we come back. Remember, 336-379-5775.